So what I just wanted to do briefly is show you a little bit of the very unfinished, new-looking Mahara instance, which is coming out in October. Usually we try to do it mid-October, latest third week of October, so that we are not getting too far behind. And that usually means that here in the Northern Hemisphere, you'll upgrade to 1604, so then to the April version next year. And in the read this year, it's pretty good because the bootstrapped version will need a bit more work afterwards, because we'll see a lot of bugs and things that may not really look so great yet, and can fix them then up over the next half year, and then you'll even have a better version available. But just to briefly show it to you, and also mention a number of the new features that I already know of. There are a few more coming, but we are just working on some. Here's a quick overview of what Mahara looks like in the future. So this is actually our development instance to which you have access to, and you can create an account and log in and just play with yourself. And if you come across anything that does not look really right, please do let us know, because then our team can get onto it and fix it. Don't worry about this pink here. Currently, this Mahara instance actually does not have any theme. So just basics, and our front-end designers just wanted to check out what it looks like if you just change the colors, and then the pink one got pushed to master to our repository instead of the green one. But it's actually really nice to see it in a different look and feel. And currently our design team is working on creating the actual themes. And so our idea was to really revamp the themes so that you don't have Aqua, Sunset, Ultima, and so on anymore, because they've had their time. We've had them since at least 2008, I would say, because I've also already started using them at the University of Luxembourg when I was there. And so we really need to refresh them a bit. And so what we are planning on doing is actually give every single one of our graphic designer a theme to create, so that we also have many different styles that might appeal to others more than other people, so that it's not one entirely coherent look, but that it does look also very different. And of course you can still continue making your own themes. The big revamp that we did, and you might already see it a little bit, is that we are using Bootstrap for themes. So we implemented the Bootstrap framework, which makes it easier in the future to keep up to date with all things responsive and mobile, and just make it a bit easier for our team to theme Mahara in the future and take advantage of all those new things that come, simply because we are based on a framework and don't have to do it manually all ourselves. What is going to happen is that it is SaaS-based, so that's probably saying a little bit more to Keith and to Chris, and that means that you don't actually change the CSS immediately, but you change it more in a developer environment, and then it gets compiled into the final CSS and also compressed a bit so that it is also faster to load. We did not change much of how Mahara works, so basically most of the things are still there, because we simply needed to get through the task of actually converting everything to Bootstrap, because every single file needed to be touched. And so that is a monumental task, and the majority has already been done. Just a number of things are still not quite there yet. But that's why we said we'll fix everything up, we'll create the base Bootstrap theme. We already identified a number of usability issues that have been reported through the community, or that we have seen, or that also our front-end developers have seen, simply because they've never used Mahara before, and they said, oh, why don't we do this differently, and so on. But in some cases we really had to say, okay, put it in our backlog, but we'll park it for the moment, because we need to just get the basic functionality done. But we did make some improvements already, which will help with usability, so there's much more consistency across what is a tab, what is a link, what is a button, so that we don't run into weird usability issues already like that people can't really identify whether they actually leave the page or whether they're still on the page, whether a new page gets loaded and things like that. And also just graphic-wise, changes have been made so that it is just easier to see some of the buttons. There's more consistency behind it. And so we have this top menu, but as I said, this might still change design-wise in some regards because our designer is currently still going through everything. But you see also that there's more white space available, which makes the pages breathe a bit more. It is not so condensed. We have consistent highlighting throughout the environment, showing which things either are highlighted or cannot be changed. In this case, these pages here are ones that have been submitted, and so you don't have the edit buttons or the delete buttons there anymore. We have those consistent arrows here, and you know you can go off somewhere else. And then if we just go into a page, it looks very similar to what you are already used to. So it's not an entirely different system. So you still have content, portfolio, and groups, or in the case of Pace, you rename things, so all those rename things will still work. But a number of things are just cleaned up a bit, made more modern in some cases, and then also made more consistent so that we have certain tabs there, and then have display page and share page sitting elsewhere because they are just simply different actions. And that will then also help with improving usability further. Also, if we just briefly take a look at a group, if we have one set up. Sorry. Is that the group navigation has been made much, much easier. Because in the past, sometimes you didn't really know where you were when you looked at the members or the pages, but now we have this consistent bar going across every group so that the group name is always repeated again, and then you know immediately where you are. But we didn't make it a third level navigation because that would just be a bit too much at the top. And you might have also seen when I scroll, that top bar stays, so that you can very easily kind of reach those important items there and always go back to the instance. Currently, we are also debating whether we should just leave the navigation bar static as well, actually. So there are still decisions being made. Feature freeze is at the beginning of August, so we still have a couple of weeks that we can work on those things. And of course, since it is already in Mahara, bug fixing will also continue through the release candidate phase. In terms of new features, what we're actually currently working on is to put a blog onto the profile page, but also shared with me, so that instead of seeing my pages where you have your long list of pages, no matter whether they are in a part of a collection or not, we'll actually have a combined collections and pages view, so that you see your collections and your pages if the pages aren't in a collection, so that you really essentially look at your portfolios and not just the individual pages anymore, when those pages are part of a bigger portfolio. There will be the display that you know that this part kind of consists of more pages, but it will be easier to just see all of them, because especially when you have a portfolio that you've started 4 years ago, then you have a lot of pages, but they might actually be combined in overarching things. So you have pages for 2015, 14, and so on. And so we will only show 2014. And that also helps us actually putting that also on the shared with me overview page, where you currently always see individual pages, but not actually the portfolios that people have shared with you. So the list really gets a bit shorter because you really focus on the portfolios, on the very wider things.
So would my pages be collection 1, collection 2, page 1, page 2? Is it
yes,
collection
pretty much.
1, colon, page 1?
No.
It's collection 1.
No, just collection 1. If I remember correctly, we do show how many pages that collection contains. I'm not sure if we have an icon. I think we left the icon idea out because it would just be a bit overkill, kind of visual-wise. But I'll have to check on that. And we don't show the page names because we know, at least from our nurses in New Zealand, which are a really good use case for that, they have 26 pages in one collection. And so trying to show all of those would be very tricky, and that's why the idea just showed that it's a collection. And that's
number of pages is nice, though.
Yeah, number of pages, so you know how big it is, kind of, and that yes, it is a collection. And so that is one of them. The other feature that we are currently working on actually for Switch is that we'll improve the feedback so that feedback can be nested. So you can reply to a previous feedback and then reply to that reply again. And what Mahara already has is that you get notifications for feedback on a page when you left feedback. In the past, it was only that the author of the page could receive feedback notifications. But in 1504, you can also receive feedback if you are the writer of feedback and left feedback and somebody else leaves feedback as well, but only the public feedback, so not the private one. And so that needed to be taken into consideration there. A number of use cases, okay, what happens if you have a public, then a private, and then a public feedback again? Would that work? Would that not work? And so it'll help replying to comments, making it easier to follow the thread of feedback and comments. That is one feature. For Queensland Polytechnic University in Canada, we make changes to the Leap2A export. So a number of bugs that are currently still in the system will be gone with 15.10, so that collections are exported, that the navigation block still works when you exported a collection and embedded it into the page. And a number of other things will just be cleaned up. So it's not entirely new feature, but it will help there. And the My Pages blog, My Collections blog combination, I forgot to mention that is for Pratt Institute, who are also moving to 1504 right now, and then next year moving to 1604, I assume. And then we have a number of smaller features still in the making that are currently going through code review. And we try to keep this version of Mahara, or this site of Mahara, so master.dev.mahara.org, updated maybe once a month, so that you can always play with the new features. Or if you have a local instance of Mahara available or a test server where you can always pull from our master versions or anything that is in Mahara, then please feel free to look at those things. I haven't actually started on the user manual yet because the theming is not done, so I'll have to replace every single screenshot there. And so I really want to wait until most of that is done. And since we don't have so many other big features in there at the moment, we'll just do that during the release candidate phase most likely. But again, you will have an updated version of the user manual as well, and a number of improvements directly in there already, usability-wise, small ones, but those that often just trip people up. A couple of you mentioned that usability in Mahara is not always the greatest, and that you do have to go through workflows and sometimes a bit roundabout, do things roundabout. If you do have any of those things, please let us know, because we can A, definitely put them on the wish list, B, you can share them with the community and we can get feedback from people knowing how we could improve it, and does that workflow or a new proposed workflow also work for others, so that we can then look into implementing it. Ideally, in some cases, of course, that would be that the development work is funded or done actually by your developers, because as Keith mentioned earlier, Mahara is an open source project, and so anybody can contribute to it. So it doesn't have to be just our development team or other developers that have already contributed to it, but anybody can submit patches. They are being reviewed then and then put into the software. So we've had contributions from Canada earlier this year, again from Europe, and also some of our clients contributed, which we'll of course also always acknowledge, because it's always fantastic to see what feature wishes come through and what use cases people come up with and want to have created. And so that is always good to put into the software so that it becomes more relevant to you, easier to use, and that it makes your user communities happier. That's pretty much just a light view of what's coming up in Mahara. I assume we'll have a Mahara user group meeting again around October, and then I can definitely share more in terms of kind of more of the actual new features and then also screenshots.
I think obviously there are usability issues you would address just by something reconfiguring Mahara, but I'm thinking more and more that Yeah, I like that Mahara is a learner-centered portfolio platform, and you've got extreme flexibility. But I'm thinking more and more that I need to be pushing out specific templates to groups to give them a head start on thinking about their portfolios. I'm wondering if there would be use of having a library of here's interesting templates that we've used for our program to get users started.
Thank you for mentioning that, Keith. Because if I remember correctly, George had that same idea last year, and we also discussed it at last year's Mahara user group meeting. So while you were talking, we prepared something for you. Namely, on the wiki, we do have a section where you can share your templates and also workflows and anything else around it. So if you're just on the wiki, wiki.mahara.org, search for templates. There aren't many yet, so that is where it needs really the input from people of sharing their templates and easily making it possible by exporting the V2A file, putting it up there, or sorry, thank you for coming, linking it to a page where you provide the download. And so here, right now, we pretty much only have 2 templates. And the funny thing with templates is actually there seems to be a bit of a cultural thing. Because in New Zealand and Australia, we use templates quite heavily as well, in particular for the nurses who need to do a compliance portfolio. So they, of course, don't all want to create their pages. Or also in an early childhood program, Early Childhood New Zealand, they have 8 or 9 collections just for the bachelor students, so that they go through an internship. And now we've created one for kind of Māori communications, and then a generic one where they have the values of the program and things like that. And so the templates, I think, work really well because you do provide the structure, you provide the scaffold, and give them a bit of a head start. Whereas Sam Taylor, who is from Southampton Solent University and now works at Cranfield University in the UK, she's actually not such a huge fan of templates because when they started using them, it seemed like that they're a bit stifling the creativity
That's the
of people.
trade-off.
It's a bit of a trade-off, though. I always see templates more as a starting point, and then because we don't lock people into templates, we don't say this block needs to stay here and another block needs to stay there. But we say, well, take it and change it around, but at least you know which elements need to be on the portfolio. And so that is really great to see the differences, and also the differences in university culture. Because also in Germany, templates aren't really used much, and also Google Docs aren't used much because of privacy, whereas in New Zealand and Australia, kind of Google Docs and Office and so on, they're just there and everybody uses them. So it always depends on where you are, what your institution does, how it deals with different tools, what tools are implemented, and also what portfolio philosophy stands behind it. So if you want to know more how people in New Zealand, Australia, but also the UK want to use it, you can go to our conference website from this year, maharahui.org.nz. So Mahara Hui means gathering, assembly. So instead of calling it Mahara Conference, we call it Mahara Hui. Hui is a Māori word. We are New Zealand, so it does make good sense. And this is Sam Taylor. She's actually also an active member of the MAC group, and she has her own MAXI group, Mahara User Group Southern England. And she was our keynote speaker this year, or one of our keynote speakers. And so if you click on the schedule on this side, so the schedule for this year, you will actually see that we have the majority of our presentations recorded, and you can kind of view them, what people are doing. So we have a number of presentations on health, and in particular nursing, how that is being done in New Zealand at various organizations and also Australia. And I've just in the elevator saw that there's also a nursing program here at TC. So that could be something useful. And then we also have a very simple usability overview survey that Stephen Bright did at Waikato University in New Zealand. And a number of others, Dajan from Switzerland, he talks about open badges, and also David Bell, who used to be the director of the Trinity Methodist Theological College in New Zealand, but now is just involved in the wider Methodist community there, how they are actually using it in the community and put it into the e-portfolio, and they are heavy users of their Mahara site. So they have weekly readings, he posts videos quite a bit, then they use the badges to acknowledge community involvement in various aspects. So there's a lot of fantastic content there, and usually the videos aren't longer than half an hour, so they might actually fit into a commute for some people here in the wider New York metro area. And if you don't really want to watch the recordings, we also have the slides for the majority of the presentation, so that you can look at least at them. And then also please feel free to get in touch with those people. They usually have their contact details on the slides. Or if you don't know or don't want to contact them, please feel free to send me an email, and I can put you in touch with them, so that you can learn from them how they are doing things and maybe have an exchange. And that's how the collaboration with Southampton Solent University came about a couple of years ago. And you actually did a nice improvement of making it easier for students to actually get into the two big areas on the PACE portfolio that are of importance to them, and just narrowing that down with people, and also having the brainstorming done with others who are in a similar situation or who have similar amount of experience or more experience or less experience can help, because they are just coming from a different perspective. So that's always there. And also on the wiki we have a list of presentations done over the last years, and if you want to put your own presentation there, please feel free to do so, because unfortunately I haven't updated that list in a while. So once I have a free minute, I should better do that, so that we find all those things there as well. But we try to record more and more presentations, and also mark meetings like this one and put them up for the community, because not everybody has the chance to come to face-to-face meetings or go to conferences or even attend the online meetings, because they are just time zones don't match. And so that is really great resource for community members who are new or who are just thinking about what they could do, to just watch them and then get inspired by all your use cases.